Chapter 4. Mumblings of a Blue Demon. Hello, everybody. My name is Rainy. What? You don't know who I am? Don't give me that shit. You better learn my name or else you're in for it. Go back to school, kid! Oh, pardon me. I think I lost it a little there. No, I'm usually quite modest and graceful, but sometimes I fly off the handle a bit. Just every now and then, you know. But since some of you don't seem to know who I am, allow me to introduce myself. As I mentioned a moment ago, my name is Rain. I work as a servant. No, as a maid. I serve as a faithful maid to the Demon Lord Guy Crimson. I've known Sir Guy for a long time. Looking back, I knew him even before the creation of the world. How long ago was that, you ask? How the hell should I know, huh? Do you remember the exact time of day you were born? You don't, do you? It's that sort of thing. I'll be ignoring stupid questions from now on, thank you. Regardless, having been derived from the great spirit of darkness, I was invincible. Or I thought I was. I was a little full of myself, I won't deny that. Consequently, I committed a grave mistake. I joined hands with one of my sisters, a person I had an affinity for, and I attempted to stage a surprise attack on one of our other siblings, someone stronger than us. Looking back, I was such an idiot. He was incredibly strong. I thought fighting him 2-on-1 would make for an easy victory, but we lost big time. The person who beat us was the Demon Lord Guy Crimson, known at the time as Rouge. And while I'm at it, the sister who fought him with me was Vert, now known as Misere. We're very good friends. My work is Misere's to do, and her salary is mine to receive, after all. We're still co-workers today. Rainy, quit goofing off and get the cleaning done. I just introduced her and already she's tearing into me. Stupid loudmouth. What did you say? She asked. Nothing. No, I hope not. Close one there. Misery's got a real sharp mind like that. She always notices whenever I take a break, and it's painfully difficult to pull the wool over her eye. I'll get back to cleaning, just for a bit anyway, so she won't get mad at me again. Regardless. Right, I was in the middle of my introductions. So Misery and I lost to Sagai, but that unveiled a certain fact to us. If you can break a demon's core, they'll be eradicated for good. However, if you're talented, primal, like all of us are, you can resurrect yourself no matter what happens to you. With true dragons, this process resets their personality even though they keep their memories, but in our case, the personality remains the same too. Lady Velzard, the ice dragon and companion to Sagai, reset her younger brother in this fashion in order to re-educate him, but that won't work with primals like us. Isn't that, totally amazing? I wish I could boast about it all day to you, trust me. But sadly, there are some disadvantages to this. The resurrection process takes a lot of time, but that's just a little detail. The toughest part is that, although you're immortal and all, you have to be eternally subordinate to whoever you lost to. In our case, that was Sir Guy. This discovery triggered a sea change in the power balance between demons, creating a new, heavily skewed sort of status quo. You could call this all our fault, or you could say it was thanks to us, to put a rosier spin on it. Misery prefers to see it from the former perspective, but I'm more a fan of the latter. Did you know that? You aren't prejudiced against me, are you? Stop looking at me like I'm some wicked child. Besides, you should be paying attention to me. I'm cluing you in on a little demon's secret. specifically how to kill demons. In a way, that is. It's impossible to fully destroy a primal, but you can make them servile to you. It's not exactly as forceful as slavery, so it's not like you have to follow any order given to you or anything. If I wanted to defy Sir Guy, I could. Not that I would. He can force us to obey him a little after all. Next, I'll talk about the demons directly descended from the primals. Normally, except for that idiot Noir, primals create a whole lot of progeny. They have to follow orders from their boss of the same color, so it's like having a useful army of maids at your beck and call. Using the term create might cause some confusion. I don't want to go into all the little details, but here's a basic rundown. A newborn lesser demon has no color associated with it, you see? It's intelligent, but has no sense of self, and it's really weak, too. This is mostly the type that humans can summon, what we call the enslaved type. When these demons gain sentience, they're called the independent type. When they evolve into greater demons, their natures and personalities result in a set of unique characteristics, which make it clearer exactly which color family they belong to. That, or a more powerful demon might scout them in order to create their own faction. That may be the more common approach to building a following, actually. Misery's a hard worker, so she still manages her own faction today. She runs several organizations, the Sons of the Veldt being the most well-known one, and they even have clout in the human world. Me? Well, I can't be bothered with all that. Don't roll your eyes at me, you. What? I'm the same as Noir. What the bullshit? I do have a faction of my own, you know. Being compared to Noir pisses me off, so don't make that same foolish mistake again, please. Oh! But back to the topic. Newborn demons don't get involved with factions, but once they evolve into greater demons, that's when they get divided up by color and join one. Some demons are born with a color already associated with them. That's often the case with reincarnated demons. Demons are immortal, so if they die, they just get reborn like that. Even these, however, can be destroyed if their core is shattered, I think. Demons are pretty tough, though, so maybe even losing their soul like that may still be survivable. That's especially true if you're closely aligned with the primal colors. If you're lucky enough to defeat one, though, you also have to break their core, or your victory will have been pointless. By the way, you don't have to be particularly fearful of a newborn, weak-willed demon. They might have battle knowledge, but they're just wimps with no experience, so even destroying their temporary bodies might be enough to kill them. They're nothing worth losing sleep over. So, yeah, those are our secrets. And figuring all this out might just have made our loss against Sir Guy worth it. If anything, I think I did a pretty good job there. It's with this self-sacrificial spirit that we continue to serve Sir Guy, but it's actually pretty fun for me. Sir Guy has taken a step back from the struggle for supremacy in the underworld in order to go live on the planet's surface for a while. He's a man of integrity, despite everything, so he took us along with him. He even told us, you know you're free to live whatever lives you want, right? But count me out of that. I want to stick with the winning team. And there's no way Sir Guy would ever lose, so I think I'm in the best position I could possibly find right now. It'd be kind of neat if Sir Guy did lose, but regardless, here was my answer to him. No, our duty is to be of use to you. What do you think? I'm just the most perfect maid ever, wouldn't you agree? You won't find another maid as faithful as I am, or so I thought. Precisely. You are our king. We are your subjects. That is the eternal, unrelenting truth. Damn it, Misery! Acting like such a good little girl, and now look at her. And the worst part of it is, she probably means every word. It's always an adventure trying to deal with this rival of mine. Of course, I might see her as my eternal rival, someone I'm burning to get back at my whole life, but, you know, Missouri seems to trust me well enough, so I stopped trying to teach her a lesson. You just can't beat her, I don't think. Maybe it's not exactly what either of us wanted, but either way, we're as inseparable as ever. So after a bunch of wandering around, we settled down at our current base. It's in a frigid land, one far too cold to support life, but I'm a demon, so it's no big deal. Okay, just kidding. I mean, for example, when I tried washing some clothes, it didn't work because they just froze solid. I punched a dress, frustrated, and it just shattered on me. Yes, I was pretty angry. So yeah, there were some trip-ups along the way, but I'm doing fine here. You should be more regretful. Rain, I really think you should be more considerate of me. Sir Guy gave me a warning, so I was more careful around him afterward. Problems like these are exactly what my army of servants is for. Do your best for me, okay? You're here to make my life easier, after all. And ever since then, I haven't made a single mistake. I've grown a lot, you see. Speaking of my work, it involves a lot more than just doing the laundry. Some people call me an omnipotent maid, and that really is how talented the two of us are. Cooking, laundry, song and dance, musical performance, even art. We cover it all to handle Sir Guy's request. I'd occasionally mess up the cooking and laundry, but we're all capable of learning from our mistakes, aren't we? The same is true of demons, so let's just forget about the past. My personal talent, by the way, is painting. I just love abstract art. I had Missouri model for me earlier, and she was so moved by the results that she started crying. No, I was furious. Then it was a great success. I swear. Misery's acting all annoyed with me, but I don't care. I wouldn't describe her as furious so much as, just bursting with emotion. That's something pretty unusual to see from a spiritual life form like a demon. It made me almost scared of my own talents. Oh, and this goes without saying, but when I paint Sir Guy or Lady Velzard, I always stick to pure representational realism. I've got it down perfect, so they always praise me a lot. Oh, sure. You can paint if you actually try. That's what made me so angry at you. Sounds like Misery's saying something, but let's just tune it out, like always. By the way, let me tell you about one of my other hobbies. Life in the frigid wastes can be pretty grueling. It's no place for anyone to live, really. There's an incessant blizzard outside, just a solid sheet of white. That's our constant background, but within our barrier, it's always a lovely summer's day. We even modified the geography to construct a lake, complete with a white, sandy beach. Sometimes I go over there and just relax on one of our beach chairs, having my demon lackeys serve me. It's the best entertainment I know. I couldn't tell you just how much energy I waste on my hobbies. Just thinking about it, I can't resist grinning like an idiot. Sir Guy loves it too. The things she comes up with. Yes, Rainy's just the best. I have to admit it. You really are amazing, Rainy. Hee hee. Even Misery praised me. Hopefully I can keep taking advantage of hobbies in my regular work like this. Oh, right. There's one other important job I have, one I shouldn't forget. The Demon Lords occasionally hold a Walpurgis Council, and it's my duty to guide all the participants to the event site. Originally, as the name suggests, Walpurgis really was just a nice little dinner party with the three demon lords of the time, Sir Guy, Lady Millim, and Lady Ramirez. Lady Millim is the niece of Lady Velzard, and her power is beyond comprehension. There were times in the past where she'd lose it and just go on a rampage, and I can't even begin to describe how rough that was. We never die, so we could have joined that battle, but it could have led to the destruction of the entire planet. So in the end it was me, Misery, and Lady Velzard stamping out all the after-effects of the fight. If you think I'll do that again, you got another thing coming. If Lady Ramirez hadn't lent a hand, we might have been down for the count before things finally wrapped up. Sir Guy's a big fan of hers, and so are we. We respect Lady Millim too, of course. So, if these three demon lords were coming together for a little dinner, of course we were going to give our all to the menu for the occasion. But after a few incidents and events and so on, the Walpurgis Council started to take on a different significance. We simply had more demon lords running around, essentially. It was Sir Guy's job to ensure the human race didn't destroy itself, and he brought on a few more people to help with the workload. The first one, the fourth demon lord overall, was Sir Dagral. He, as a matter of fact, had been the one who'd taken the most damage in the battle between Sir Guy and Lady Millim. He was helping us out as well, you see, ensuring the battle didn't wreck the whole world. He certainly hadn't benefited much from it, though, given how most of the land he ruled over was reduced to a barren wasteland, but that's none of my business, so I'm not going to dwell on it. There's magic available to us, of course, so he still found a way to make the land livable, but he couldn't stop the rapid desertification too well. Things have calmed down by now, but he had a real headache or two at the time. I wished him good luck, of course, from our safe little paradise all the way up here, but still. The next demon lord after that was Lady Luminous, the Queen of Nightmares. She was the only daughter of the Lord of the Vampires, and that made her incredibly strong. But let's talk a little more about her father first. That person, you see, was a sort of demigod, the first one ever created by Sir Veldanava, and he was going to serve as a god of humanity before things went awry. He had been seeking intelligent life way back in the day, mainly because he wanted a friend to talk to. There were angels and demons by that point, so that desire was fulfilled, but next he wanted to see a bit more diversity. So he tried giving a little help to the species-building civilizations on the planet. That was going to be the job of the demigod he created, although it sure didn't work out that way. He was only a few steps removed from immortal, after all, and he didn't really have anything to be a god of at the time. That was the problem. I mean, the demigod technically didn't even have a gender, much like us demons. Thanks to that, he had to wait tens of thousands of years for some surface species to prosper well enough. I don't know all the details, but that's how I understand it. But the demigod didn't give up. Sir Veldanava expected a lot from him, so he kept carrying out these forbidden experiments. What a bomb! He loved beavering away at all that scientific stuff instead of creating any descendant. It's not up to me to decide whether that was a good thing or not, but I can tell you this much. He was an idiot and a complete nuisance to all of us. I couldn't even tell you how many times those experiments brought humanity to the brink of total collapse. Despite that, however, all that futzing around on his part did create the race known as High Human. So while he didn't create an eternal, immortal race of demigods, he did contribute a lot to the development of humanity. You don't believe that, do you? Well, you'd be right not to. I sure don't. It's not like I was there to witness it or anything. From what I've been told, the demigod analyzed his own body to create two different species. One was the High Humans and the other was the vampires, you see. It wasn't exactly the kind of birthing people were expecting from him, but it wound up paying off, so I guess all's well that ends well. Anyway, by the time Sir Guy was summoned to the surface, there were humans spreading all over the place. The High Humans, I mean. They had built this gigantic country, bigger than anything you see right now. But here's the thing, both of these species had their pluses and minuses. The High Humans had inherited a lot of powerful magic force, but their mental makeup was an issue. They were silly enough to summon Sir Guy after all. They must have assumed they were at the very peak of intelligent life. In another world, there's a saying that goes something like pride goes before the fall, and that's exactly how I would describe it. The whole thing fell apart in the blink of an eye. The vampires, meanwhile, had some big problems of their own, although maybe that actually worked in their favor. They're still around, after all. They all had powerhouse bodies and massive magical force, coupled with near immortality and a mature, more developed mentality. Which is all great, but their inability to do anything while the sun was out was a real liability. They could never truly rule over the world like that. So the dumbass demigod continued with his experimentation. I was around by this point, so I pretty much remember the stuff he was up to. The elementals had already split off from the great spirits, so the 4 major elements had already spread across the world. These elementals began to take in magicules, and in time, they manifested physical bodies as well. And that demigod was helping them along the whole time. The earth element created the high dwarves, the water element created the sirens, the fire element created the flame imps, and the wind element created the high elves. This much was allowable in itself, but then that demigod began to go way out of line. That moron actually began experimenting with crossbreeding them, creating all sorts of new species. For a graceful lady like me, the mere thought is simply disgusting. This led to all sorts of new races, such as elves, dwarves, ogres, beastmen, and so forth. But those are only the successful examples. A lot of failures were banished into the dark corners of history, and sometimes they'd even devolve into inferior monster versions of the original. The goblins, for example. Sir Guy was highly troubled by all this. He felt this needed to be addressed sooner or later. But, as long as Sir Veldanava wasn't deigning to take action, he couldn't punish the demigod on his own initiative. The way he saw it, the world had become a lot more needlessly complex than it had to be, but, at the same time, a lot more interesting as well. But that's a guy's business, you know. Personally, it was no skin off my nose at all, so I was just fine with it. You just like watching me stew in my own juices, don't you? Oh, no, not at all. You misunderstand me, Sir Guy. I am your ever-faithful maid. I gave him a beautiful curtsy. Being able to perfectly hide my intentions like this was the result of regular, constant effort. So anyway, despite overcoming this and that danger, the demigod was still giving us a lot of trouble. But, get this, it was ultimately his own experiments that did him in. Ah, my daughter, you are my greatest creation yet. Your day of judgment is here. Disintegration. He had it coming, really. His daughter, another demigod created from his own body, immediately rendered him into a pile of ash. Amazingly enough, you could say he took just one step too far that time. It was a great relief to me, but don't tell anyone about that. Those were the top-secret events behind the creation of Lady Luminous, the 5th Demon Lord, and you better not breathe a word about it to anybody else, all right? So as the Demon Lord numbers grew, we eventually had a 6th one join the flock. That was Sir Dino. By the way, is it all right if I speak my mind freely for a few moments? Oh, I already am. Well, no need to hold back then. Let's just say it. I hate having to call him Sir Dieno. I mean, he's just a pile of garbage. He never lifts a finger to do a single moment of work. He's the walking definition of depravity. I mean, it'd be one thing if all he did was not work, but it's even worse than that. He pushes work on me instead. I can't have this. He's not getting away with it any longer. If he's gonna do that, he should bother misery instead. Then I could forgive it. But when I made that suggestion to him, what do you think he said? No, but when I ask Miseri, she gets all angry at me, you know? That, are you kidding me? I get just as angry, and if he puts it that way, it means he sees Miseri as a lot scarier than me, doesn't it? I mean, I get yelled at a lot too, and it's not that I don't resent having to deal with misery sometimes, but what? He and I are alike. What are you, stupid? Are you trying to disrespect the primal demons? Some things, you know, are much better off left unsaid. If you don't understand that, don't blame me if someone tears you limb from limb. That's your friend Rainey giving you a friendly word of advice. Anyway, there were now 6 demon lords, and that made our Walpurgis councils a lot more like business meeting. It used to be just a fun meal between friends, but now it was more like work, I guess you could say. It's all such a pain, so count me way out. Rainy. Hmm. Just kidding. I'm their guide to the meeting, and I'll do my job. Everybody seems so busy, though. Well, everybody except one person, but it just occurred to me. We're all working on this like a full-time job, but it doesn't feel like our main job of managing humanity is getting any easier, does it? Take Sir Guy, for example. He's beyond busy, with Miseri helping him out all the time outside Walpurgis meetings. I really need to give them all the support they need. When it comes to cooking and laundry, just leave it to me. Next, Lady Millam. She's surprisingly dedicated to her job. If a little squabble arises between 2 countries, she steps in and punishes both of them. If a powerful magic beast attacks an area, she'll go around helping people out. Sometimes her behavior isn't very demon lord-like, but it's all certainly in character for her. Lady Ramirez, meanwhile, is practically a shut-in by now. She never even ventures outside the labyrinth she created for herself. But that's fine. I owe Lady Ramirez a great deal, so she can do anything she wants, as far as I care. And I guess the same is true for Sir Dagrul too, huh? All the cleanup work after that bout of mass destruction sure doesn't look easy to me. I'm sure he's got no time to devote to other matters, and everything he does to reduce the spread of the desert on his lands is a huge boon to us. The one who really impresses me is Lady Luminous. She's so talented, not at all like that lout of a demigod. While I wasn't paying attention, she brought the entire vampire race under her rule, and she's even protecting the humans as well, the species that resulted when the high humans lost their powers. Vampires used to see humans as nothing but a food source, but now they're following Lady Luminous's orders and taking care of them. I have to say, I'm amazed she ever got them to do it. What a job she did. I mean it. On the other end of the spectrum, meanwhile, is that lout. Sir Dieno, why don't you actually try to work a little for a change? Oh, like you have any right to order me around? It makes no sense. Could there be any worse of an insult than this? I really don't think so. I suppose DNO and I were just fated to be at each other's throats all the time. So given how things are, I wasn't sure that even 6 demon lords were enough for the workload. Thus we began to send out feelers for some new personnel, but then Lady Luminous chose that moment to retire. I'm sure it's because the new person we found was too much of a dolt for her to abide by. He constantly treated Lady Luminous and Lady Ramirez like second-class citizens, occasionally flying into a rage to show off his powers to us, and I'm sure it stretched her patience to the limit. Lady Luminous looks like a beautiful young woman after all, and it's easy for a lowlife like the new guy to mistake her beauty for weakness. The easiest way to deal with this, she'd perhaps reasoned, was to install a demon lord that clearly looked more threatening than her at first sight. So Lady Luminous stepped back, and Roy came up in her place. I will continue supporting all of you from behind the scene. Roy will serve as demon lord to the public in my stead. Are there any objections to this? If Dieno had said this, he'd have been derided as trying to goof off yet again. But Lady Luminous was a much more trusted contributor than that. The way things were going, everyone accepted the proposal at once. So began the start of a truly new era, a time when powerful magic-born began popping up all over the place and becoming demon lords. At the very least, they needed to be demon lord seeds, and those who satisfied that requirement, Kazalim front and center among them. and had the ambition for the job began to join our ranks, one after the other. This marked another turning point for our Walpurgis councils. By this I mean the nuances that still define it today. They're held if 3 members agree to it, and they're used for working out treaties and agreements between demon lords. It's also the place where members decide whether to accept a new demon lord or not. If you ask me, I think the councils are really going in the wrong direction, but Sagai's getting what he wants from them, so I have no complaint. If he's okay with it, then so am I, and that's how a new system began to be established. So I took care of matters in and around Sagai's life, occasionally serving as a guide for Walpurgis sessions. Demon lords would occasionally get added to or fall off the roster, and before I knew it, they came to be collectively called the 10 Great Demon Lords. That was around when that slime showed up, the Demon Lord Rimuru. The first time I saw him was at the Walpurgis, convened by the Demon Lord Clayman. Ah, I do miss Clayman. I suppose I should praise his courage for having nominated himself as a Demon Lord despite being weaker than me. He was very good at the boring, bureaucratic work of running a Demon Lord's domain, so he was actually quite helpful despite everything else about him. A real useful man, you could say. One who'd always accept an annoying job if you complimented him enough. Who knows where it began to fall apart, though. It was really a shame, the way he met his end, but I can't really say anything about it except that he chose to take on the wrong adversary. Misery was the one who picked up Sir Rimuru, but on her way back she told me, "I'm not too sure Clayman has much longer to live." She wound up being right, too. I was appointed to serve as MC for the meeting, but the moment the topic veered towards Sir Rimuru, things sort of began to happen all by themselves. It was something of a thrill to watch unfold, but some aspects of it bothered me, too. Not about Sir Rimuru so much as with the guy's attendant. That wasn't part of Noir's family, was it? I think it was. I could sense his presence when I went to pick up Sir Rimuru, so there's not much room for doubt. Oh, no way. He's selfish to the point of insanity. Why would he ever bow down and serve someone else? Well, who can say? I have no idea what he might be thinking, and I don't really want to dwell on it either. Good point. I think Misery had it on the money there. Noir, after all, was as fickle as he was selfish. He was just like me and Misery in that sense, but I'd rather not get involved with another person like that. I mean, he fought Sir Guy to a draw, all by himself, against someone Misery and I had ganged up on and lost spectacularly to. I've never fought him personally, but that fact alone gave me an aversion to him. Or maybe that's me trying to sugarcoat it. I don't have an aversion to him. Deep down I know I can't beat him. I mean, I don't think either Sir Guy or Noir were seriously duking it out with each other. It had just been a fun little bit of jostling around from their perspectives, but I couldn't keep up with the blows they were exchanging. I've got my pride as a primal to consider, you know, so there's no way I'm ever going to admit it. It's just that, deep down, I really don't want to get in a disagreement with Noir anytime soon. This is awful. I'm going to be fighting Noir. Why is this happening to me? I know I've been a good girl. It's just strange. Did someone find out I've been stealing snacks from Misery? No, I blamed that on one of my archdemon underlings, so I'd imagine the heat is off me for that. I'm still wondering why, but maybe I should take a new perspective on this. I want this to seem like more of a great opportunity for me. I hate him, after all. He doesn't lead his own faction. He just does whatever he wants, all by himself, and he loves getting in Sir Guy's way. He could manifest himself physically any time he wanted, but he has no interest in that, much to my annoyance. Along those lines, the fact that he's still an archdemon instead of bothering to evolve into anything better just drives me up the wall. It's like he's rejecting the whole system this thing runs on. There's no doubt in my mind that it's Noir egging on the 3 remaining colors to make this a 3-way deadlock. If he's a demon, he needs to follow the rules and pursue his evolution already. I really need to sit down and set things straight with him. He's strong, yes, but so am I. I don't think I could beat him, but never say never. A battle is all about having the right matchup in place. Noah doesn't know my powers, so I think he's letting his guard down. If I take advantage of that, I might just be able to beat him, for all we know. I'm quite good at keeping things positive. I had a plan of action, and my mind was in the right place, and that was how I felt as I set off for the battle. You know, I did feel this intense, murderous gaze upon me, but I was a little occupied at the time. But would you mind calling me Diablo, please, Blue? Oh, right, you've been given the name Rain, yes? Hearing that gladdened me a little. I always thought he never took an interest in anyone but himself, but there he was, actually remembering my name and everything. Eee. Maybe I should start giving him a little more credit. That's right. The name Rain was granted to me by the great Sir Guy, the rouge color of the primal demons. I'm not like you, named by some mongrel demon lord from parts unknown. Feeling a bit better now, I decided to goad him a bit. I call Sir Rimuru a mongrel even. I like slimes, actually. I think they're cute, and Sir Rimuru seems like a well-qualified demon lord, so I had a pretty rosy opinion of him. I thought that, this would be a good tactic to take against Noir or Diablo. It turned out to be a bad idea. Do you want to die? Or, that is, do you want to be erased from this world forever? Care, hey? His eyes were deadly serious, too. I mean, Diablo never lets anyone know what's going through his mind at any time, so I didn't expect that he'd bear that much emotion and get seriously angry at me. Let's fight, Diablo. Oh, I can't wait for this. Ever since I sensed you fighting Blank in the Eastern Lands, I've been hoping for a chance to battle you. I was still talking a big game, but on the inside I thanked my lucky stars I'd thought to invoke ubiquital mist. By creating a copy of myself in advance, I can get right back into the fight if one of them is destroyed. Otherwise, I'd never go up against an opponent I'm not sure I can beat. By the way, I really did take an interest in the battle between Diablo and Blanc. I've fought Blanc myself before, out of envy, you know. Diablo kept giving Blanc all this attention, so I wanted to see just what kind of power she had, is all. If I recall, we fought to a draw, mainly thanks to ubiquital mist, but the fight itself was really a loss for me. No, actually, let's still call it a draw. I didn't lose. I'm a smart, capable girl. The only person I'll ever admit having lost to is Sir Guy. But as I pondered this, our battle was growing intense. Maybe I had taken this a little too seriously. I drew from all the powers that I had, attempting to corner Diablo. We were even in terms of magicule count. Maybe I had a decent chance after all. But I wasn't foolish enough to let thoughts like that relax my guard. After all, I knew that Diablo wasn't really trying against me at all. I hated to admit it, but it was true. Are you being a sore loser? I'm sure you're still too new inside your physical body to break out your full powers, but that's no excuse, you realize. I said that and all, but I knew the truth. This guy may have been a creepy freak, but he was no idiot. He was one of the two best demons out there, the only two I personally acknowledged as posing any sort of danger to me. He wouldn't make the kind of rookie mistakes lower-level creatures would, but this was unexpected. Before I knew what was happening, these layered magic circles appeared around me with glowing letters drawn on them. Like, hang on, and aren't these spells holy magic the type demons are weakest against? It had been impossible not to be surprised by this. I now had disintegration, Lady Luminous's trademark attack coming at me from every side possible. It was at that moment when I realized that I might not win this. You were worried, weren't you? I was all right, of course. What? Wasn't I just bragging about how ubiquitous mist ensured I'd be fine anyway? Well, you don't need to be picky like that. Girls don't like that sort of behavior, you know. Don't think, feel. Sharing your emotions like that impresses girls a lot more. Me included. But Diablo was being beyond rude to me. I can't believe he was bringing up another opponent while we were still fighting. I mean, Testarossa? Who's that? If she's that special, then bring her over here. I was beyond indignant about this treatment, but when I learned later that he was referring to Blank, I was shocked. I mean, what? I need a moment to calm down. Why does even Blank have a name now? Yes, I'd been expecting Diablo to see through my performance. He had always been sharp ever since his noir days, and so I kind of saw it coming, as annoying as it was. If anyone but him had claimed that this multi-level disintegration still wasn't his most powerful skill, I'd have laughed in his face. Right now, though, the Testarossa question was more important, not just for me, but for Sagai as well, who had been watching the proceedings from his hiding spot. That's how serious it was. Diablo had been singing the praises of the demon lord Rimuru this entire time, constantly going, "Oh, Sir Rimuru, Sir Rimuru." It was downright frustrating to hear, but then he'd casually throw out these incredibly important pieces of information in between all that prattling. It was so underhanded of him, but that's just how he was, and that angered me even more. Sagai was getting annoyed too, I could tell, but he was holding back for now because of the opponent I was fighting. Over time, I finally managed to get some more info out of Diablo, but it stunned me into silence. It turned out that the demon lord Rimuru had recruited the other primals to his side as well. I didn't want to believe it, and the moment I had that thought, I knew that I had been strategically defeated. Unfortunately, it was the truth, and it couldn't have been any worse. Blank was now Testarossa, Violet was Ultima, and Jorm was Carrera. We had managed to build an equilibrium between three different groups within our little clique, but it had all fallen apart in an instant. I really wish this change had taken place over the span of decades or centuries, but reality can be cruel like that. We shouldn't be held down by restrictions, after all. We need to live freely. I've often thought that that's how demons ought to live, but, what's wrong with competing with each other? It just doesn't seem right to me having us unite beneath the same banner. The resulting force would be so strong, there wouldn't even be any point in fighting any longer. But now he's just gone and done this. Great. I'm starting to seriously fear the demon lord Rimuru now. Up till now, the top two people on my list of deranged maniacs were that idiot demigod and the annoying, insane Noir Diablo. But today, right now, Rimuru's cruised up to the top spot. Here was a guy I knew I had to constantly watch out for. I couldn't afford to antagonize him at all costs, even if it meant sucking up to him. Unlike Sir Guy, I'm a good girl. I'd never think of making him angry. Instead, I'll follow the trend and sincerely call him Sir Rimuru. Yes, I just decided this. Let's go with that. So we retreated, leaving the rest to Diablo. It was a very rare thing to see. I mean, Sagai's true goal was to deal with this huge power he sensed was about to go off on this planet. Yes, well, I'm sure Sir Rimuru will take care of it no matter what happens. That was Diablo boasting to us yet again, but seeing Sir Guy accept it at face value was unbelievable. I'm just a simple maid, though. It'd be beyond rude for me to question his decision. So we let Sir Rimuru do whatever he wanted, and in the end, that wound up being the right choice to make, which was a relief. Sir Guy was so worried for Lady Luminous after all. She ruled over the Western nations, which made work a lot easier for Sagai, so no wonder. I felt the same way too. There was no way I could do her job. Regardless, everything seemed to have been resolved, so good for us. It was a shame that Misery had failed at her mission, but she'd been pitted against Blank Testarossa, so I couldn't really blame her. Was she strong? I didn't fight her, but she certainly seemed to be. At the very least, earning a name and body let her evolve into a demon peer. She's much stronger than your average demon lord. I'm sure. She was a handful even when I fought her, so if she'd evolved, it might just be too much for me to handle. She was never one to care very much about wins and losses anyway. As long as she got what she wanted out of it, she had no problems accepting a tactical defeat. Even if she lost, it never rattled her. She was third on my list of maniacs, although she had just been bumped down to fourth. Oh, but the demigod's long gone, isn't he? She's still third, then. Wow! Doesn't this mean that the top spots on my list are all on Sir Rimuru's side? Carrera's a menace, too, and Ultima can really trip you up if you approach her incorrectly. If he managed to tame all of them, I really have to respect that. Let's try not to pick a fight with Sir Rimuru, all right? I'm wondering where that thought came from, but I know what you mean, and I firmly agree. If anything, I wish that I'd given you that advice. Well, that's rude. I'm smart enough to mind my behavior around people like that. Are you? You were the one who suggested we take on Sir Guy, if I recall. I have trouble believing you. Oh, come now. That was just a little youthful indiscretion, you know. I've grown since then, and I won't make the same mistake again. But either way, that's how the two of us began keeping an eye on Sir Rimuru. Bad news. Bad news. Sir Rimuru really is a freak of nature. I just met him for the first time, but it was crazy how insanely intense he was. What? Didn't I see him at Walpurgis? Shut up! I'm saying that Sir Rimuru is so crazy that last meeting doesn't even matter. That's the only way I can describe it, and I don't think anyone else would do a better job. I mean, listen to this. Sir Rimuru actually decided to evolve us as well. Can you believe that? But it's true. I may be a demon, but I always tell the truth. But now I think we can help out Sir Guy quite a bit. In terms of strength, we're now to the point where Sir Guy would barely give us passing marks. If I decided to take on everyone in the octagram, I don't think we'd beat any of them. But that just goes to show how wonderfully talented the current crop is. Well, okay, I bet we could beat Lady Ramirez, but I don't think she counts in this example anyway. If she went into her complete form, I think we'd lose big. And I'd love to teach that bum Deano a lesson or two, but if I ever tried acting on that urge, I'd be the one left crying. That's why I let him off the hook. He should thank me for being such a tolerant person. Oh, but I've gone off track. Let's go back to our evolutions. It all began when Diablo called Sir Guy over. This meant we'd be visiting Sir Rimuru's nation, but Sir Guy didn't much like how Diablo was egging him on. I thought about asking to stay at home, since I was bound to get dragged into this conflict, but that would have been shirking my duty. Joining him was definitely the right choice anyway. Sir Rimuru had apparently never met Lady Velzard before, so they exchanged their first greeting. Then, after that, he very politely introduced himself to me as well. He's certainly easy to fall in love with, isn't he? I thought about pretending to be this oblivious little girl and trying to flirt with him as much as I could. Not that I did, of course. I know how to read a room, and I was sure my life would be forfeit if I'd tried it. It was the right choice to make. So began a nice, harmonious tea session. I observed the proceedings from behind Sir Guy, and it struck me that he and Sir Rimuru shared a decent amount in common. They had the exact same reactions to certain things, and I could tell both of them had their hands full with Diablo. Along those lines, they seem more alike than not to me. It went without saying that I had a much better opinion of him now, but that wasn't all that struck me. First there was Sir Rimuru's attendants. One of them was introduced as Benimaru, but why did he seem so much stronger than your typical demon lord? And the same was true for Shion next to him, too. She had clearly grown stronger since the last time I met her. I could detect a vague aura of evil around her, making me wonder if she had gained some skill giving her an advantage over demon. What could it be? Because I seriously wasn't sure if I could beat her in battle any longer. But if I ever admitted that, it'd have been tantamount to saying I was no longer worth anything. And I couldn't have that. So I tried to keep myself cool and collected, but it took a concerted effort, you know? Besides, those weren't the only two who were strong here. Wait a minute. This aura, it doesn't belong to Testarossa or any other demon. There's at least 3 or 4 others here. Why are there all these demon lord-class people serving this demon lord? I thought only Sir Guy could get away with that, but perhaps I need to reconsider. As I resolved to do that, I began to smell the aroma of tea. Time for a break, then. But we're maids, so it wouldn't be mannerly to enjoy tea together with them. I assumed I'd have to wait for another chance, but the next thing I knew, I was being guided into the adjacent room. It turned out they had set out some slices of cake just for us. I tell you, I can't say enough good things about Sir Rimuru. In terms of the consideration he shows for others, he's certainly qualified to be a king, I can tell you that much. Now it was time for the taste test. This was a strawberry shortcake, it looked like. Eee. I don't like to brag, but I fancy myself as something of a pro in the kitchen. I once captured and held a chef from a first-class hotel until he taught me all his techniques, so I'm reasonably certain that I'm better than some hobby cook. What I'm trying to say here is that it'd take more than just okay results to impress someone like me. Chomp. Oh, this is good. Are you kidding me? This is, like, incredible. It looks so simple on the surface, but one bite and you're exposed to a complex harmony of flavors. They must have gone through the trouble of building each individual layer, then stacking it all up. There are different types of cream between each layer, I think. This must have been an incredible amount of work, right? And given how uniform the taste is, I can see they carefully calculated the distribution of all the ingredients too. Amazing. Miseri was just as impressed. In the realm of baking, we mainly specialized in dishes utilizing high-end ingredients, such as fresh fruitcakes and sugar-laden pancakes. Honestly, I never thought you could bake a cake that required this much technique to pull off correctly. Was this made with otherworld techniques? I couldn't help but ask. That's right, Sean replied. This was developed as part of a friendly competition between Mr. Yoshida and Lady Shuna. It's a strawberry shortcake that uses 3 different kinds of cream. It uses a tiny amount of powdered black spell rice, too, so it's well suited to monster palates as well. This Mr. Yoshida, is he an otherworlder, I wonder? Lady Shuna, I knew already. She was the one who guided us to this room and served us the cake and tea. She moved with learned, refined motions, like nothing at all could scare her. I am renowned as a perfect maid, but I had to give her high marks for her service. And if she's this good of a pastry chef too, I've got some competition, I see. As we were relaxing, enjoying our cake, I decided to speak up to that hateful Diablo. By the way, is it me, or have you grown stronger since the last time you fought me? It had been on my mind for a while. Just one look and he felt like a completely different person. I couldn't ask him until now. Not with Sir Guy and everyone in the conference room. But now was my big chance, and I wasn't going to let it slip. I'll remind you, after all, that Misery and I hadn't been able to gain any new powers since we'd evolved into demon peers. I mean, we had grown stronger thanks to the assorted experiences we had, but apart from that, we had not evolved as living creatures at all. Meanwhile, here's Diablo making it look so easy. Hey, you truly are a pair of fools, aren't you? That was how Diablo chose to respond. I have no idea how he's so skillful at getting under my skin like that. Would anyone mind if I punched him? Go right ahead, my conscience told me. But just as I was about to act on that impulse, Diablo kept talking, interrupting my train of thought. It is all thanks to my master, Sir Rimuru. I have performed well for him, and he has offered me a commensurate reward. This bastard, acting like he's so much better than us. Well, two can play that game. He has, huh? I suppose that means you're nothing special at all, then. I agree with you that Sir Rimuru is a great person. There's no doubting that, but that's another story. You, on the other hand, it looks to me like you're relying on him for everything in your life. Well, what do you think? I said it, and I'm not taking it back. You evolved thanks entirely to Sir Rimuru. Your actual strength isn't anything special at all. But, yes, that's correct. Is that a problem? That bum Diablo confessed to it at once, not even trying to argue. And he's actually smiling at me too, like he's happy that I understand this so well. I hate him. He makes me feel like such a moron. Can you stop this, Rainey? I think it'd be hard for Sir Guy to beat him in a verbal argument even. The only way this is going to end is with you crying. Not even Misery was on my side, and the worst part was that she sounded like she was right. So, at the end of my rope, I flashed Diablo a dirty look. Then something unexpected happened. With a satisfying thwap, Shion rapped Diablo right on the head. I couldn't even tell you how happy this made me, and to top it off, she started scolding him too.
Quit with all insolence, you brown noser.
Stop being so rude to our guests at once. Watching this unfold made me pump my fist in the air. I just couldn't help myself, and a quick peek at Misery revealed that she was gleefully smiling too. And why not? This was so hilarious, I just wanted to burst out laughing. Things quickly devolved into a heated argument between Diablo and Shion, with the two of us wholly ignored. It went on until Lady Shuna entered the room. I had no qualms about calling her Lady Shuna by this point. Seeing Shion hold her own in a verbal battle with Diablo was impressive enough, but the way that Lady Shuna immediately shouted both of them down was truly a sight to see. I could learn a lot from that, I thought. And if anything, the biggest surprise of all was that this argument was strictly a verbal one. Both Misery and I were taken aback by that. Lady Shuna had come in to call us back to the conference room, so we meekly followed her. She even informed me along the way that they'd decided to give us the recipe for that cake, at the request of Sir Guy, she said. I wasn't sure how this day could get any better for us, really. So we were taken to the room where Sir Rimuru and his associates were waiting. I immediately took the opportunity to express my feelings to him. You impress me greatly, Sir Rimuru. That cake was nothing short of excellent. Oops. I was too late. Misery got it out first. It took me a moment to recover. And I understand you are kindly providing us with the recipe as well? I am nothing short of honored, my lord. Sir Rimuru smiled a bit like it was nothing special. Well, I appreciate the thanks. If we're going to keep working together, that's exactly the sort of relationship I want to foster with you. We were doing nothing but taking from him, and he called it working together. Such a broad-minded person. But I had no idea what was in store for me. You should thank him more, Sir Guy, suddenly said. Rimuru's just agreed to give you some of his power. And so we were granted the great honor of being evolved into Devil Lords. You see? It's crazy. I can't even guess what's going on with Sir Rimuru. Even looking back now, the only adjective that comes to mind is crazy. But I'm making effective use of the powers I've been given, so if he ever has a problem we might be able to address, I swear that we won't hesitate to help him. How could we? Our magicule counts are still rising by the day, and we're more of a help to Sir Guy than ever before. This all happened thanks to Sir Rimuru, and I think it's only fair that we should seek to repay the favor. Of course, he already has Testarossa and the others working for him, so I'm not exactly certain if he would ever need the powers of someone like me. But enough humility. Today, once again, it's time to wage a practice battle with Misery. Training like this every day is a must if we want to gain a grasp of our newfound power. So off to the training field I go. Oh, what's a guest doing here at this time of day? Ah, but now's no time for jokes like that. Rainy, someone has broken through our barrier. I know, but it seems now is no time for a leisurely chat, much less a mock battle. I think I had best stop talking to myself now. Here's hoping I'll get to see all of you again very soon. Special bonus. Vesta needs your advice. Originally written for a slime merchandise campaign run by Animat, an anime retail chain in Japan. My name is Vesta, and it was always my dream to conduct useful research for the world at large as I served the great heroic King Gazelle. It didn't quite work out for me that way, but instead I became a minister in the armed nation of Dworgen, following in the footsteps of my father. Oh, that's who I used to be, I suppose. But thanks to my own foolish envy, I lost that position long ago. The corps of engineers I was assigned to at the time was working with elven technicians to develop a new kind of weapon. It was a top-secret magic armor soldier project, as we called it, and a man named Kaijin was chosen to lead it. He was a commoner whose family ran a blacksmith forge, but he had a broad range of knowledge, and the constant effort he put in won him the adulation of his staff. He tended to get hot-headed at times, but there was no denying his talents as a boss. But no matter how hard I tried, I just couldn't see eye to eye with him. Not because he was a commoner, mind you. Even at the time, his abilities were more than worthy enough for him to be called a master craftsman, and that's why I was so jealous of him. Kaijin had become well known through his family business alone, but he was also putting up serious research results. I, meanwhile, was a humble researcher, a one-trick pony by comparison. I came from nobility. My father was a marquis, and I was already destined for a ministerial position in time. While my father was still capable of reigning over his holdings, I would serve in the army and devote myself to research, but it was to be nothing more than a hobby for me. It was tremendously frustrating. I have no talent for politics. I don't have the cool-headedness of my father, and I certainly don't have the raw charisma of King Gazelle. But even so, the staff at the Marquis's manor were all top talents, and I'd be guaranteed an environment where I could thrive in politics without really trying. What's more, some of them were in ministerial positions themselves. But things like government administration and policy were all decided by King Gazelle and his cadre of elders. My seat would be for little more than show. I wouldn't be missed if I never attended a meeting, and no matter how hard I tried, I'd never actually help the king at all. I was sure at the time that I'd never be allowed to do anything substantial for my nation. That's why I was so opposed to Kaijin. He could serve our king even in his blacksmith role. I've got nothing but research talents, and it just seemed so unfair to me. Besides, I didn't have the time to leisurely devote myself to research. My father had fallen ill. His condition was only getting worse, and the day when I'd become head of our noble holding was near. I needed to put up serious results soon, or my life would end without King Gazelle ever taking notice of me. The thought of that was too painful to bear, so I ignored Kaijin's opinion that we needed to keep the pace of our development slow and steady. I forcibly conducted an experiment that led to one of our spirit cores, the keys to our whole project, going out of control. The whole thing was a failure, and the entire project was shut down, never seeing the light of day. I was in a daze afterward, but my family maneuvered for me behind the scenes. Somewhere along the line, Kaijin left the military, shouldering all responsibility for the incident. The next thing I knew, I was a minister. Now I wasn't even in a position where I could give an honest apology to anyone. I had grown blind to the fact that the only joy I found in life was when I got to harass Kaijin about something. A terribly boring way to live. Yeah, sorry about back then. Out of nowhere, something drove me to apologize to Kaijin. He shot me a funny look, like he didn't know what I was talking about. Sorry about what? Rimuru didn't give you the budget to increase production on those models, or... No, he's already given his approval for that. His Majesty cajoled Sir Meiji Elmile into giving us all the funding that we need. Great. So, why the apology? Oh, I'm talking about long ago. You know, pestering you, running you out of the military. Half of it wasn't me so much as my staff doing my bidding, but still I know it's too late, but I realize that I never said sorry for any of it. Yeah, it sure is coming late. But didn't you apologize to me for that ages ago? Kaijin gave me a chuckle. I think I did once, not long after I came to this country. I'd meant every word of it, but still I wanted to give him an official apology sometime. Every single day in this nation is a cavalcade of surprises. I know that sounds like nothing more than an excuse, but I wanted to get that off my chest before anything else. He's too busy to think about it right now. He tells me, King Gazelle could be a pretty capricious man, but Sir Rimuru is the most wildly free and uncontrolled person I've ever met. Just look at him, counting on me for such an important job. The first difficult job I had was educating the monsters. When he asked me to teach them the basics of reading, writing, and arithmetic, admittedly rude, first thought in my head was, is he nuts? By the way, the abacus he provided as a tool for teaching math turned out to be quite a useful device, enough that we adopted it into Organ. Sir Rimuru produced a sample for us, and the design of the model we used was pretty much identical, and I was teaching them more than basic comprehension. There were classes devoted to practical skills too, and I was charged with teaching them manners as well. Manners! Two monsters! Could I be blamed for thinking this whole operation was a farce? I asked Sir Rimuru what the point of that was, and he just smiled and said, Well, I want us interacting with humans going forward. That sounded insane to me, but I had no right to refuse him. I just nodded and said very well to him. The work, however, turned out to be much more engaging than I'd assumed. The female goblins I taught, led by Lady Shuna, were quite enthusiastic about learning how to properly carry themselves. The males were no slouches either, learning how to politely handle visitors, hoping to mitigate their often vicious-looking appearances. All the monsters I worked with were much more eager to learn than I'd expected. It was fun for me to teach them. We agreed that I'd keep this up until they could prepare a research lab for me, but even now, I regularly participate in these classes. That's how valuable that time is to me. So in the meantime, they finished building the lab inside a spot called the Sealed Cave. Looking back, they didn't give me much more than the bare minimum, but the thought of devoting myself to research once again made my heart soar. In the process, I was introduced to Gabble the Dragonart, becoming close friends with him as I realized that we shared the same mission. His outside-the-box ideas greatly motivated me, encouraging the spirit of inquiry that I had almost forgotten about. I wasn't at all sure what would happen to me when I was first brought here, but by this point I have nothing but appreciation for King Gazelle. I can honestly state that I'm happy here, but that doesn't mean my life's wholly free of problems. And that's what I had just come to Kaijin's place to discuss. I'd already given the apology I was thinking about, so it was time to delve into my main business. Really? Well, I appreciate you saying that. Sure. But that's not all you're here for, right? Oh, you could tell. Of course. You've always been in the habit of bringing up a thorny issue only after going through a round of idle chit-chat first, putting it off, kind of. He might have had a good point. I'd been acquainted with Kaijin for a while, so he probably knew my disposition well. I braced myself and stated my business. No point beating around the bush. Well, to tell you the truth, I wanted to discuss something with you. Discuss? Well, it can't be anything that's serious if you got your budget. Our budget was important, but no, it wasn't that. Oh, it is serious. Much more so than my budget. Is it? I got the idea that he couldn't picture me being troubled about anything more important than my budget, but never mind that. It was a thorny issue, but I was sure Kaijin could find me an answer. Well, over in Sir Rimuru's lab. You're talking about the top-secret lab he keeps for his personal stuff. You sure you should be talking freely about it? I really shouldn't have been. I knew that well enough without him telling me, but I just couldn't keep quiet about this any longer. After all, I knew for a fact that Sir Rimuru was giving physical bodies to hundreds of demons at once in there. There were also a few archdemons among them. I'd seen those fearsome creatures receiving bodies with my own 2 eyes. I'd even witnessed Sir Rimuru giving them names. How could I begin to express the horror I felt? Yes, I had a duty not to disclose any secrets, but this was really something I had to tell King Gazelle about, wasn't it? And Sir Rimuru never asked me to keep quiet about this, bear in mind. We already have a technology sharing agreement in place, and I'm free to provide the results of my personal research to Dworgen anytime I want. But well, you know. All right, I'll try to keep it abstract then. In that lab, he's currently mass-producing the kind of war power that would allow him to take on the entire world at once. I thought, that King Gazelle should know about this as well. Kaijin had a valid point, so I tried to be as indirect as I could, but his reaction was a lot more vigorous than I anticipated. Wait. Lester, what is this stuff you're saying out of nowhere? Mom? Was that too abstract for you to make sense of it? No, you idiot. In fact, it's about as non-abstract as it gets. Was it? I didn't think so. I was still hiding the more important parts. Don't worry, Kaijin. I'm sure you'd be agonizing over it too if I gave you all the details. But for now, I just want to hear your reaction to that. You expect me not to worry about that? Because you've always had this habit of trying to escape from reality whenever something bad happens to you like this. I found that pretty rude of him, but I was too worried about what I knew to let that bother me. So what do you think I should do? Should I keep it locked up in my mind, or should I report back to King Gazelle? Kaijin gave my question some thought, scratching his head as he answered me. Vesta, I think you're a little tired out. Why don't you just head home for today and enjoy a drink or two? He grinned at me. Great. He's running from the question. That's not really an answer, you realize. Oh, lay off me, you idiot! And quit dragging me into something this vital. That was perfectly justified of him, but I wasn't going to back down. Oh, don't say that. You're doing me a favor here. I abandon my country, you realize. I don't have the kind of responsibility a Dworgen Marquis like you has. Oh, don't be so distant. You're a boss to me now, Kaijin. I respect you a lot. Didn't you always used to tell your staff that noble titles didn't matter nearly as much as social standing? Sure, bring that up now. Is this why you were apologizing earlier? You always were crafty like that. Our verbal scuffle continued for a little while after that, with me trying to drag Kaijin into this, and him trying to make a clean escape. But I could already see where this was going. Kaijin was a responsible man, and I knew he'd never just try to run from me if he'd heard this much of it. All right. Give me the rest of the details. I knew you'd say that eventually. As expected, Kaijin agreed to hear me out. I gave him a satisfied smile. So we went over to a high-end tavern located inside the labyrinth. Dwarves and drink are never far from each other, and while I look more like an elf on the outside, it's still a favored hobby of mine. And all the wonderful drink they manufacture in this nation. The staff at this tavern's thoroughly trained to not reveal secrets to anyone too, so even if they overhear something they shouldn't, they'll never tell a soul. We were guaranteed to be safe in here, so it was perfect for discussing delicate affairs like this. So, what are you thinking about doing? Kaijin asked. I decided to be honest with him. If I stay silent and something bad happens afterward, I'd feel terrible. I haven't been told to keep quiet about it, so I feel I have a duty to file a report. Kaijin gave my response a thoughtful nod. Yeah, that wouldn't count as an illegal tip-off under the terms of our original agreement, I'm sure. Besides, aren't you still officially a Marquis of Dworgen? I was. It was something even I forgot about on occasion, but my home nation had never stripped me of my noble title, and I'd never voluntarily given it up. I mean, really, I was just back at home in a daze, and the next thing I knew, King Gazelle kidnapped me and sent me over to Sarimuru. There hadn't been any time at all back then to work out what my position in Dworgen would be. The nobility in the Dwarven Kingdom do not own their domains. All land is technically owned by the king, and we pay rent to the government to gain the right to oversee it. The definition of domain is likely quite different from other nations as well. Dworgen has only 3 large cities, located in the central, east, and west sides of the nation. Beyond that, you had the manors that line the bases of our mountains and the living spaces built into the mines excavated within natural caves. These living spaces, divided into wards, are what the nobility manage. We were overseeing family registers, to borrow a phrase from Sarimuru. That means we look after the residents of the ward that we run, accept the taxes they pay us, and carry out our other duties as nobility. The number of families we oversee depends on our noble title, but as a Marquis, I actually made quite an income. After committing as bad a blunder as I did, costing me the confidence of King Gazelle, I was sure that my title would be seized as well. But I was still being treated as a marquis to this day, and that meant my yearly tax revenue was still streaming in. The talented stewards that supported our family were taking care of all that business for me even now. My family was still receiving their payments, and since I hadn't been officially exiled from my homeland, I was actually free to go back and live there whenever I wanted. I didn't want to do that, of course, and I didn't plan to. Living here was just too much fun by comparison. My personal servants had also joined me here, and I was enjoying a more luxurious lifestyle in Tempest than I had over there. The food's great, the drinking scene is spectacular. spectacular and I can do all the research work I want. It's like heaven to me. Sermaji El Mile can be stingy with my budget sometimes, but now I'm drifting well off subject. Mum, yes, I am. And considering my position as Marquis, not telling King Gazelle would be akin to betraying his trust. I don't think keeping quiet is the same as betraying him, but yes, I do think it's your duty to make a report. Yeah, I guess so. I didn't really need him to tell me that anyway. But the problem was, how would I report it? So you think I should just say it all? Like, he's building enough firepower to destroy the world? Whoa, did you drink too much? And for that matter, is it that grave of a thing in the first place? Mum, this is some good drink. I couldn't get enough of this mellow taste. It was refreshing, aromatic, and just so wonderfully mild. I could feel it freeing me of all my concern. But, yeah, you know about Ultima and Carrera, right? Oh! Well, of course, but seriously, are you all right? I'm getting whiplash from these changes of subject. I'm not changing the subject, and I'd have to be drunk to talk about this kind of thing. Wait, so are you telling me? You guessed it. Those two are part of the firepower he's building. I see. Well, that certainly explains why the police overseeing the adventurers are so damn strong. I never saw them in the Tempest security forces, so I figured they were some kinda secret force out training in the wilderness somewhere. I began to think Kaijin was finally grasping the seriousness of all this. Nobody in Tempest ever dared to defy the city's police force, and nobody dreamed of complaining about any of its court verdicts. Why? Because they regulated the conduct of criminals with absolute, overwhelming power. Anyone who saw them could tell that they were insurmountably powerful fighters. In terms of adventurer ranks, even the lowliest police officer would spill over the A mark. But wait, what? So the police is their world-conquering firepower? Yeah, it's the perfect camouflage, isn't it? Well, I'm not so sure, but Kaijin looked confused. I could understand why. The thought of these fearsome, world-destroying demons serving as the police force protecting our citizen. So assuming I told King Gazelle about this, how do you think he'd react? Well, that hammer. This would be hard to tell him, wouldn't it? Right. There's no way anyone would believe me. People might even start disgraceful rumors saying that I've gone mad. I think I'd still have the king's trust, but all the intermediaries between him and me would try to cast doubt on it, I'm sure. Yeah, muttered Kaijin, finishing off his cup. He was staring at me, no doubt cursing me for getting him involved. So I gave him a smile. What do you think I should do? Well, now I'm not sure you should just meekly tell him. It's a tricky question for me, too. Kaijin and I fell silent for a little while, pondering the correct answer. The monotony was only broken by Cedino, whom we had invited over. Wow, Vesta! It's no fair, you two having all the fun. You should told me in sooner. And buy me a drink while you're at it, too. Then I'll listen to whatever problems you got for me. He gave me a broad, reassuring smile. I wasted no time asking him. All right, Sir Dana, what do you think I should do? I was drunk, which meant that I completely forgot that he was a demon lord as well. Forget about it. Just palm the responsibility off on someone else. And if he gets yelled at, that's just bad luck for him. Cedieno shot us a thumbs up to accentuate his point. No, I really don't think... It's fine, he continued, interrupting the concerned Kaijin. Like, Honestly, I've been asked to report a bunch of things too, but I ditched that responsibility real quick. I got raked over the coals for that, so I promised myself that I'll do more reporting, but it's up to me who I report to, right? So I just told whatever random guy I decided on, and that wound up working out just great. They wind up getting yelled at, and I can hold my head high and say I did what was asked of me. I feel so refreshed every day now. Highly recommended. And with that sage advice, Sir Dino ordered his first round and began drinking. I suppose he was already done with this conversation. Now I feel like an idiot for agonizing over this. Right. I think that's exactly what I'm going to do. Excellent! Good idea, Vesta! No wonder you're my boss. Having a demon lord like Dino give me that encouragement made me feel a bit proud of myself. It was odd. He's poisoning your mind, man. You can't use this guy as a reference. Think it over. Kajin had been carrying on for a bit now, but even his prattling sounded comforting to me. Let's drink. It's on me tonight, guys. Let's see how far we can go. Yeah, that's the spirit. Whoa, are you all right? Because I think even top management like you can't afford to go crazy in this joint. Hey, quit sweating the small stuff, old man. Just chill out and let's have at it. You just want to drink on someone else's tab? Well, yeah. How's that, problem? It most certainly is not. My mind's free of troubles now, Kaijin. So now it's time to celebrate. Let's paint the town red. I felt like king of the world, and before long the party began in earnest. Hopefully I won't have to deal with a bunch of other stupid trouble tomorrow. That was the only wish in my mind as the three of us clinked our full glasses. Sylvester, you must be very tired, said the agent I gave my report to. Looks like he didn't believe me after all. That was exactly what I'd anticipated, but I still had no regrets. After all, I had done so much regretting the moment I saw the tab after I sobered up that I think I broke my regret emotion for good. Yeah, maybe you're right. But don't say I didn't file the report, all right? With that, I ended my regular contact call. My report would be verified much later, but nobody questioned whether I was responsible. Some did, actually, but the nameless agent took all the heat based on our magical call records. It really did turn out the way Sir Dino said it would. I'm so glad I thought to discuss it with him. Contents, content. Cover, cover. Insert, title page. Copyright, copyright. Chapter 1. Meiji Elmiel's Ambitions. Chapter 2. Faraway Memories. Chapter 3. Days of Upheaval. Chapter 4. Mumblings of a Blue Demon. Special bonus. Vesta Needs Your Advice. Originally written for a slime merchandise campaign run by Animate, an anime retail chain in Japan. Yen Newsletter. Navigation. Begin reading. Table of Contents. Thank you for buying this ebook published by Yen On. To get news about the latest manga, graphic novels and light novels from Yen Press, along with special offers and exclusive content, sign up for the Yen Press newsletter. Sign up or visit us at uwyenpress.com book link.